2021 Select Board meeting to order. Flip through a couple of slides here quickly. Tonight's agenda is brief. We were scheduled for public comment at 7 o'clock, but we've not received any folks requesting to make public comment. We'll then go have a vote to call for a special town meeting on April 26th and to approve the moderator's request for a remote special town meeting. We will then adjourn to executive session to discuss strategy with respect to the civil court and administrative actions, involving 59 Middlesex Avenue and to the purchase of said property. And then we will not be returning to open session this evening. So I do want to, if I could, just two quick announcements. Number one, the town clerk asks that we make clear that on Wednesday, March 31st at 5 p.m. is the last time to request a ballot be mailed for the April 6th election. And second, the Reading COVID case count has been ticking up for the last few weeks. Please continue to be vigilant, wear masks, maintain social distance. We are almost there, but not quite there yet. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen. And let's move to the special town meeting article. If you want, I actually can share. I did a little cut and paste. Maybe that's a good way to get started here. So folks, if you will, whoops, sorry, I'm having a little, my computer's misbehaving for a second. Let me try that one more time. When we had our last that related to the water tower and with the cell carriers and the ability for them to put up a temporary structure, that put into motion the need to have a special town meeting. There are 3 articles. This was sent out to everybody by Bob earlier today. Article 1 for reports, Article 2 on instructions of board. This is for any funds requirement, and then Article 3 to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to do the ground leases. Anything that we need to know about the wording here, why it's structured as is?
So Article 1 and Article 2 are required to be on all town meeting warrants, whether they're annual or special. I believe it was a 2014 instructional motion that directed that. So that's the purpose of Article 1 and Article 2. Whether we'll actually act on those articles, I think is to be determined, probably not, but that's why you see those there. In terms of Article 3, as we discussed last time, we were reviewing the cell tower project, I'm sorry, the water tank project, in order to allow carriers or really anyone that responds to an RFP to construct a ballast pole for the installation of wireless facilities. We are going to have to execute a ground lease, and a town meeting vote authorizing that lease is required. So Article 3 is structured to allow for a lease of a term of no more than 30 months. And Bob can speak more to this, but Ryan doesn't believe it will take 30 months, but we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into a situation where, you know, we need more time and we have to go back to town meeting to get it. So we've kind of baked in additional time there.
Bob, do you want to add some commentary?
Yeah, and also share some other information. You know, Ryan thought that 18 months was more than reasonable, and it's not just the number, it's the construction season. So, you know, 18 months would take us through a year from the fall, which is a construction season. And then we talked about all the bad things that can happen, because we always talk about those things, and we added another construction season just in case. So it's not any more, I guess I'll say, complicated than that. I should have sent this to you or included it in a packet, but I have a letter from the moderator that requested a remote meeting. And then I have an email where he asks the town clerk to certify about ADA compliance, and I can share that with you also. So as soon as you're done with the content of the warrant, I'll do that.
Ivrea, You had indicated lease structure was correct, and that's what you have here. That's the right structure that we want to move forward with.
Correct. We believe that a lease is more appropriate than a license. I know that the carriers were advocating for that, but we believe that it's in the best interest of the town to execute a lease agreement with whichever entity successfully bids.
Great. And the other question that came up was in terms of an RFP for carriers to be placed, or to allow their equipment to be placed on the tank and to enter into agreements with that. When would we be addressing that?
So again, I'm going to defer to Bob, but that will not happen until later. Bob, do you remember what Ryan said last time we spoke?
Yeah, there's I guess there's three sort of documents, I'll say, that are, you know, ideally concurrent if I were a carrier. One is this ability to execute a lease. One is the RFP to you know, to determine who's going to build this structure. And then the probably the most important thing is the RFP to get back on the water tank when it's finished. So from a practical standpoint, we don't really need the last one for some time, but I think for the carriers, they would prefer it sooner. I know they would. Yep. So we're trying to work out a schedule over the next couple of months that will enable kind of all three of those things to be done as closely together as possible. I think in particular, I can't remember if it was discussions held at your meeting or otherwise, but you know, the carriers did say that they wanted to have some assurance that they would have an opportunity to come back on the water tank before they did anything, you know, such as build a tower, which is only sensible.
Right. So
as long as if they see an RFP for that, then they'll have that comfort to go ahead and spend, you know, their own money to do work, temporary work.
Thanks, Bob. Board members, any questions? Oh, I saw Ann first, and Vanessa, then Carla.
I'm trying to remember if there was some discussion previously about whether there was a need for town meeting to modify our previous authorization around the water tank construction and funding. I'm trying to remember, was that deemed not necessary, or is that covered in our in the annual warrant?
And I'll have to speak to that. At some point, I'll have to figure out the best time to do that, probably when we're amending the capital plan. Mm-hmm. We decided until we go out to bid, we really didn't know how to amend the current budget. And it was best to wait until after. So, you know, for sure, we're going to be coming back to presumably November 2021 town meeting and asking for additional funds. But the magnitude of those are really hard to say without a bid. And plus there's then the possibility, and just throw that out there as a possibility, that the project, quote unquote, could be expanded to do other things on that site. And there would be a cost for that also. So that's a to be discussed and decided down the road. But, you know, there are reasons why we definitely have to ask town meeting for more money. And, you know, we said that at the FinCom meetings, we'll say that to town meeting. We just don't know magnitude. It shouldn't be that complicated.
Right. And I do think we're waiting on some tech information too. Ryan needs to understand more about the structure before we can go out to bid, because we need to make sure that everyone can fit. So there's some tech stuff falling in place, but all the carriers have been informed that the intent is definitely to issue an RFP to allow carriers to return to the tank.
Great. Thanks very much, Bob.
Thanks. Carlo.
Thanks. Are we still on track for May for the RFP, Bob?
Possibly, but probably not.
Okay. And when does the $4.6 million figure get updated? At what point?
We won't I think it's $4.5 million ballpark that was authorized. We've already borrowed it. And in terms of sort of the projected cash flow of the project, we won't be needing the $4.5 million mark for quite some time. You know, next November town meeting is the current plan to give a final number. That's assuming we get, you know, good responses to the RFP, let's say in June, I don't know, this summer. And then there's still a possibility if something goes wrong to ask annual town meeting a year from now from a cash flow standpoint, and we'd be okay. But we can't wait longer than that.
Right, thank you. And one last question is, since we're not putting up the temporary pole, are we paying rent to the carriers?
We received $100,000 from town meeting, I believe in the current fiscal year, to move our equipment. That's back when we thought the carriers would build one, and now they are again. We don't have any other funds. So, you know, we have not yet sort of struck a deal with them. They've not responded to an RFP, but I would expect them to pay for the construction. And then whether they will or won't discuss the leases they have with us at the same time is really up to them. They're paying us leases now. Technically, the leases have expired, but we've all agreed, you know, to keep things going. So it's a negotiating strategy on their part as to how they'll approach that through the RFP. So I couldn't say.
Okay.
When we talked the other day, I just made it clear I didn't want Reading to be spending any money because we don't have it.
Right. All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Carlo. Karen.
Thanks. Great questions. Quick question. Has Verizon during any of this, have they reached out to us, or would somebody on this project reach out to them and invite them and tell them about these fabulous new opportunity we have for them coming up?
Ivrea, do you want to start?
Sure. So Verizon has been in at least one conversation, so they're aware. The RFP, the fact that we are going to issue an RFP has been posted in the central register. So any carrier, any cell tower construction company can be made is aware of this, and Verizon, like any other cell company or carrier, can respond to the RFP, and the town will choose whichever response is most advantageous.
Awesome. Hope they do. And then the other question, so Bob, so the timeline on this project has changed, and you mentioned we've authorized the debt. And so are you running up into any deadlines when we authorize debt? We have 3 years to spend it on a project, or are we running up into any deadlines that we should be aware of?
So far, no problem. I'm going to use a round number. We borrowed $10 or $12 million. So the spending rules are on that total. So at some point, if the $4.5 million project just sits in limbo, then yeah, we'll have an issue. But that's at least a year away, and probably a year and a half away. So there's no current issues. And you know, we fully expect to start spending money any day, honestly. Not the big amount, but you know, for some of the consulting work.
Nope, I think we're moving in the right direction.
And just to clarify, so this is, in some past projects, we've had the issue of debt authorized, but not having been actually issued and money borrowed. This is a little different, if I'm hearing correctly. It was authorized and it's borrowed?
Well, you know, in every case, it's authorized first and borrowed second. So it's a question of when you ask me. You know, we just issued debt, I can't remember, a month or two ago. You approved it, so you might remember. I don't remember. You know, whereas if you had asked me the question in January, the answer would have been, well, we haven't issued the debt yet. But some of the other related projects needed to have cash flow.
Right, and so we ended up with 1% money. Roughly,
Yeah.
2% borrowing, so it was quite advantageous.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool.
Mark,
Any other questions? I'm sorry, did I interrupt, Bob?
No, just if I could share my screen. This is the letter that I'll send to the board if I haven't, from the moderator. And it's the same form and format as the one he sent for the annual town meeting, you know, this year, last year, and November a year ago, or more or less. So here's the letter he circulated. And then I'll find the email. Now you get a chuckle out of one of the typos. Our town clerk has got Yogi Berra beat.
Uh-oh.
She's very good. So Alan asks, can you see this okay?
A little small.
Too small? Oh, let's see. How do I make it bigger? Any ideas?
Zoom. Yep.
Zoom.
Right.
Zoom means something else to me now. So Alan writes to the town clerk, as per state law, I'm asking you as the ADA director, same parameters as the annual meeting. And then Laura writes back, yes, in my opinion, we're ADA compliant as long as we provide interrupters if requested. I'm sure she meant interpreters. Have not had any at this time. I was thinking the town meeting has plenty of interrupters. So, the preliminary groundwork by the moderator and our ADA person has been done. And I'll make sure that's part of this meeting's record.
Thanks, Bob. Any further? Karen, can I ask you to lower your hand when you have a second? I think it's off, unless you have a question. No. Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board? Okay. I have some motions then for us. Okay, Carlo, can I ask you to read the first motion? Oh, you are muted.
Sorry. Move to call for a special town meeting on April 26, 2021.
Is there a second? Oops, sorry, Avery has a question.
Sorry, I should have mentioned this. Can friendly amendment to add the time to that
I was going
motion?
to ask about that.
Sorry.
Okay, what time? Oops.
I think Bob proposed 8 p.m.
8 o'clock. And Avery explained to me today that this town meeting must be opened on the date that it says. It can be opened later than 8 o'clock. And it seemed like doing it the first night was better because the second night normally starts with the budget, and just seemed like a better idea to do it the first night.
Okay, is that friendly amendment acceptable? So now it says at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'm good with it. Any objections? Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa. Any discussion? Not appearing. Let's take a vote as I see you on the screen. Karen?
Sorry, may I do actually have one piece of discussion. I think I had made the same amendment to the final motion with annual town meeting, instead of just technical assistance, special accommodation for anyone requiring assistance.
No, we only took out the word only, and I took that out from last time.
Okay, all right.
To say like only, for only people who need assistance, and we took out the word only.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, Ian. Any further discussion? None appearing. Okay, we'll do the vote. Karen?
Yes.
Carlo?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
And Mark, yes. Okay, any discussion on the articles? None appearing. Let's move to the second motion, which I will bring back up. Carlo, I should read this, please.
Move to close the warrant for a special town meeting consisting of 3 articles as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry, was that Karen?
It was Anne.
It was Ann. Thank you, Ann. Sorry, I'm looking and doing other things. Great. Any further discussion? None appearing. Let's take the vote. Karen?
Yes.
Carlo?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Mark, yes. And then the third motion, Carlo, please.
Do we need to add a time again?
Yep, I'm seeing a yes. So let's, let me just live edit. Let's see what I can do here. Sorry. Everything misbehaving for a moment. Thanks, Carlo. Let's try number 3.
Okay, move that the select board approve the moderator's request that the special town meeting scheduled for April 26, 2021 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time be held remotely using the Zoom webinar platform as designated by the moderator, with special accommodation to be made for those who require technical assistance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I got Karen first on that one. Any discussion? Not appearing. Let's take the vote. Karen,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Vanessa,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
Mark, yes. Thank you, folks. Right, let me go. I have another motion here. So I think that's going to conclude our open session. Oh, okay, great. Carlo, oops. Computer's rebelling a little bit in the background. Carlo, can I ask you to read this motion to move to executive session, please?
Sure. Move that the board go into executive session, including Ivrea Freed, Mayeris, and Harrington, and staff members Barbara LaShure and Caitlin Saunders-Nasella to discuss strategy with respect to civil court and administrative actions involving 59 Middlesex Ave and the purchase of said property. Further, the chair declared that an open meeting could have a detrimental effect on the litigating and negotiation position of the body and not to reconvene in open session.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Ann. All right, I will, any discussion? Not appearing, we'll move to the vote. Karen,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Vanessa,
Yes.
Ann,
Yes.
and Mark, yes. We will adjourn to executive session. Thank you.